You're listening to the Mind Over Finger podcast, episode number 175. Welcome to the Mind Over Finger podcast, where we dive into the world of mindful music making, peak performance, and crafting a purpose-driven life and career. I'm your host, violinist, certified performance and life coach for musicians, and your guide to unlocking your full potential, Dr. Renée HERE. Hi, everyone. I hope you're feeling great as you're tuning in today. Welcome to the first official episode of Season 6 of the Mind Over Finger podcast. I don't know about you, but I love September. I love the beginning of the new performing season. I love putting the rehearsal and concert schedule in my calendar and thinking about all the repertoire ahead. I love that everything feels like a fresh start and an opportunity to redefine ourselves, to perhaps do things differently, experiment with new things. So much fun. And on the podcast this year, I am trying new things and also keeping the ones you love. I'm going to have in-depth interviews because you tell me you love those. And this season, for that series, I'll be speaking to musicians and experts on topics covering our health and our well-being, as well as ways to maximize learning and performing. Lots of topics to help us all thrive. In my solo shows, I'm going to dive even deeper into mindset and my management. I'm going to give you tools you can use to create a big impact in your lives. Things like gaining more confidence, getting unstuck. Whether there are some things you want to change, directions you want to take, and dreams you want to see realized, there is a way, and that's what we're going to talk about together. And today, we begin the season with a brand new series where I give you access to the artists you love at work, in their element, and I ask the questions you're curious about. I bring you backstage with me where I sit with amazing world-class musicians and we have a relaxed conversation about music making and life as a musician. And I'm very excited to begin this new series with the incredible Esteban Batallán, principal trumpet with the Chicago Symphony. Esteban was appointed principal trumpet of the Chicago Symphony in 2019 by music director Ricardo Muti. He was previously the principal trumpet of the Hong Kong Philharmonic and for the orchestra of the city of Granada. He also served as guest principal trumpet with the Royal Orchestra of Seville, the Orchestra del Teatro a la Scala, and the Filarmonica de la Scala. Esteban has appeared and performed as a soloist with distinguished orchestras around the world. He's the winner of several prestigious competitions, including the Jeunesse Musicale of Spain competition, Yamaha Zeno National Competition, Jeunesse Musicale of Europe competition, the Yamaha International Competition, and he was also a prize winner at the 2006 Maurice André International Trumpet Competition. A native of Spain, Esteban began his musical studies at the age of 7 and pursued his training at the Conservatory of Music in Pontevedra, the Conservatory of Music of Vigo, and the Galicia School of Musical Studies. In addition to his activities as a performer, Esteban served as coach and has led master classes for many organizations, schools, and brass festivals around the world. Esteban is the epitome of the consummate artist, performing at the highest level week after week. Esteban and I had a great time chatting, and I know you're going to find a wealth of information and wisdom in what he shares with us. So, without further ado, for you, Esteban Batallán, enjoy your backstage pass. Esteban, thank you so much for talking with me today.
My pleasure, Renée.
So we're sitting here at Ravinia. You've been so incredible. We had some fun with, Mahler 5, among others. And we're getting ready to play Copland 3 tonight. Tell me a little bit about what you're looking forward to the most in this piece.
Well, looking at the composer, Copland, history as a great brass composer, and just not brass, but in general for us, Copland, because of the fanfare, he's one of those composers that we always have in our, in our book as a reference for brass playing. The fanfare for Common Man, it's just a spectacular work, and actually is the beginning of the fourth movement of the Symphony Number 3, which is and the ending as well, just half step higher, which makes it more shiny but more demanding as well. So Copland, with this symphony, I think he represents a little bit the American proud, deep feeling of country. It's a, you can tell it's a very, very inspiring music. I think, in my point of view, for the I don't know how to actually say that, but for the people to feel proud about. In this case, I think it's more about the country itself. So it's that kind of feeling, internal feeling of the people when you feel proud about something. That's the kind of symphony that kind of applies with that. It's because of its construction, fanfares and very smooth lines and powerful and the soft passages as well. But in general terms, very on the heroic side of the music somehow. So yeah, Copland, aside of brass, of course, the clarinet concerto is very famous. Some other things, and especially this piece is very demanding for strings. You will know better. A lot of little notes and fast passages that make this piece really complicated and very demanding for the whole group. So it's a symphony that I never played before. So tonight is my first time as well, but I obviously knew it. And it was one of those that you always have kind of in your mind to play someday. Whenever it happens, it seems that, all right, it's Copland third. It's not something that you have been looking for a long time on a schedule. No, it's something that you really want to do because it's kind of a, how to say it? It's a good piece for brass, especially for trumpet. I mean, the fact of having 4 trumpets in this section, playing fanfares almost all the time, it's so nice. Yeah.
I look forward to it.
Yeah.
Speaking of performance, what advice would you give to musicians preparing for performance?
So, well, I don't think you really should get ready for a performance. You should get ready for your own playing.
Love that.
So I think the best you can do, obviously, aside of working on your technical aspects or musical aspects, the fact of getting ready just to play for yourself should be a part of your personal joy and not something that you have to do for something specific. Like in this case, I'm going to prepare for a performance. That doesn't apply for auditions. For example, you have to be perfectionist with that and really think about that moment and somehow pursue that feeling and focus on that for a few months and prepare very well for that. But for performance, obviously, I mean, it's not completely true what I'm saying. It's you have to prepare for the performance, but mostly for yourself. So you have to be, first, you have to be you with yourself who is ready to offer your artistry or your music to just not the colleagues around you or for your own satisfaction, but also for the audience, which is in the end the first and last recipient of that art that you are creating. But every musician has its own routine of how to approach a performance or an audition or everything. So for me personally, I always try to do all the work in advance. So I know that Copland is a highly demanding piece in terms of strength, endurance. So I will think about this in terms of getting ready to be prepared to rehearse for 2, 3, 4 hours and don't hurt myself, for example.
The stamina.
Yeah, exactly. So, or the musical side of the piece, I will make sure that I know exactly the meaning behind each single phrase and what's happening also around me all the time, because as leader of the section, I have to give the directions somehow without even saying a word, but by saying. So I use one technique that helps me a lot, and it's the fact of knowing the piece perfectly fine. And the way I get to that point, aside of my own preparation as a trumpet player, it's to listen to the music as much as I can and try to find all the details that somebody else was applying into that recording. Or so, as you know, I'm a big fan of the CSO. So for me, my reference was 1976 recording with Leinsdorf on this same stage.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
yeah,
Full circle.
Yeah, full circle. So for me, every time I have to do something big, I have to get references from the big names, for herself obviously, and Phil Smith, or all the other great players. Even today, I mean, like Tom, I will listen to Tom for some stuff. You know, each of us has a different perspective. As humans, we all do. So it's good to hear what somebody else is doing or saying, because it might help you to be a part of your approach as well. And obviously you have to think about your own persona as relax, enjoy the moment, and play for the audience. And if something happens, don't get too crazy with that.
You talked about routine. Do you also have what some people call a pre-performance ritual? Things that you do right before a performance?
Do you mean musically speaking, or just in general by myself?
How about both?
All right. So by myself, I never eat before playing. I just hate it. I cannot play comfortable if I feel kind of full stomach, or I cannot clean my teeth right before playing. So I have to do it with some time in advance. I don't like to get dressed in the last minute. So I don't like stress, basically.
Right.
So I don't want to do anything that stresses me. Whenever that happens, that doesn't mean that the concert is going to be a disaster. No, but I don't feel confident. So I try to keep these little things that I can do without any kind of, thinking.
Right. I control what you can.
Yes, exactly. So I try to do that in kind of, it became almost like a routine, like it's normal for me to do that without thinking. And also, musically speaking, I try to, every time I'm going to play, right before I play, I have the same 3 basic exercises that I do is playing with a mouthpiece. And I have to do it at least 20 minutes before the performance, 15 minutes. 10 is the minimum. When I feel kind of in a rush, and or I feel there is something that is gonna, if I played before in the day, if it's something that is gonna be heavy, I try to just not waste myself. Don't get tired, because, it's a piece of brass that you put in front of your lips. It's brass against meat. It's not a good combination, You can hurt yourself. So I try not to hurt myself. So I will do a little warm-up, the minimum I need to start with the best possible sound, and to last longer for the whole show. Meaning Copland third, Mahler 7, Mahler 6, the big pieces. I will not really be playing a lot before playing the concert. And if we have a rehearsal, as we normally do here, or in the morning before the first show, well, I will have to make sure I have enough rest in between. If not, I will do some cool down exercises after that rehearsal, and a really nice 10, 15 minutes warm up to keep myself fresh as much as possible. I'm not a very muscular guy in terms of emotional building, but I have a lot of endurance. But I know how to keep it balanced, just not to get too tired. If I know I'm going to get too tired during the performance, just how to manage that. So,
and it's all about self-knowledge.
Yeah, of course, you have to know yourself perfectly.
You talked about auditions earlier. What would be some advice you would give to people taking auditions?
Well, in my own experience, the first feeling that you should have, it's that audition has to be your goal. It's not just a simple fact of going to play an audition because I want to go and play an audition. No. If you do that, you might succeed, but in most of the cases, it's just you're not really focused on that. It's something that doesn't create any passion for you, or, it's kind of a random thing.
Yeah.
So, and I experienced that before. I went to other places before I came here, and then I understood that I never had the same passion and commitment and the same feelings about taking an audition like this. I was really excited. So if you feel excited about an audition, that's a good starting point. Then obviously you have to prepare yourself, know all the music, be very constant about your playing. I will say, depends the person. Not everybody's the same. But for myself, before this first audition was 2.5 months preparing and all the excerpts. I knew perfectly fine the music. I was ready to play the excerpts in whatever order they would ask me. Because sometimes we try to skip the uncomfortable situation. So meaning, if I have to play Brandenburg number 2 with the piccolo trumpet, then I feel, I cannot play Carmen, the beginning, the prelude, because it's B-flat trumpet and it goes very low. So it's like, that's not the perfect scenario. Oh, no, it's not the perfect scenario, and it's never going to happen in a real situation. Yeah. But you have to be ready. You don't know what the commission wants to ask you. So
prepare for the worst.
Yes, exactly. And then the day of the audition, obviously, you already did all the work. So it's not the day to last minute things. No, you can probably take a look at your parts and have a last thought, but you should already have the work done. So when you get to the audition, I kind of follow the same pattern. It's quick warm up, and I'm ready because I know because of the stressful situation, I'm going to waste a lot of energy. And, some people might get anxious or nervous, and we all get nervous in that situation. So I know because of that, my playing it's not going to be 100%. It's going to be 90 or 95 or 85 or 80, depending how much I prepare myself. So as much as you can be completely sure of the things that you do and really secure about the way that you play and everything, the better. And be ready to be asked to play softer, something that is soft, or play longer, something that needs to be more tenuto or sustained. So have all the possible resources covered as well.
That's great answers. How about a favorite piece?
Ooh, just one? I have many favorite pieces, many. But if I have to choose one, wow, that's difficult. Really difficult. So let me think for 1 second. Because, I'm a big fan of Mahler, but I'm a big fan of Bruckner, and Wagner, and Shostakovich, and Strauss. So if I have to say just one, it's going to be complicated.
Yeah.
I will probably start with Mahler 7, but then as well Mahler 5, Mahler 6, Mahler 9. But another favorite is this Alpine Symphony. I just love it so much. So I think probably between Mahler 7, Alpine Symphony, Shostakovich 7.
That's my on my top 5 for sure.
Yeah, so my top 3, those pieces, Brandenburg. I love the Brandenburg. So I have a bunch of them.
I love this question because you never get one, and then you get to build a great playlist. Now, I want to go listen to all of these.
Yeah, and I can tell you actually all the recordings of that I have. It's my favorite for Shostakovich 7. Lenny with CSO, 1989. Or 87. That's a great recording, the best for me of all times. Mahler 7, after Scholti or Abado with CSO. Both of them are great in different ways. And Alpine Symphony, the recording with Barenboim was great. So, and I use always the same orchestra just because that's where I heard all my life. Just CSO. Some New York, some Cleveland, a little bit of Berlin. Yeah, no, not that much.
That's so wonderful that you're here now.
That's why I told you regarding the preparation for the audition, it's about the passion that you put on top of that. I'm not going to say that it became kind of a craziness in myself. No, but I was so passionate about that.
Yeah.
So,
I love that you have the word passion
yeah.
with Audition.
Yeah. I think it's the right way to approach it. If you really desire something, you might get an extra percentage into your success. So it's like playing. A little percentage of our playing is mental. Mm-hmm. So the way you approach things makes a little different in your playing. Yeah.
Can you tell a little bit more about that? Because I'm always fascinated by the mental aspect of things.
Yeah, I think that all of us, we should be more on the natural side of the player than the mechanical side. I want to say there's people who they practice hours and hours and hours. For example, Eugene Kissing. Every time he comes to Chicago, you can see him on the hallway practicing for hours and hours and hours, the same passage or the same little excerpts for hours and hours, hundreds of times. Well, he's a perfectionist. So into his naturality, he wants to find the perfection. Mm-hmm. We all want to find the perfection, obviously. But I always think that if you become that mechanic, it goes against your naturality, because then you are into the box. You know how you are doing the things, and it's very automatic, very, very square. Mm-hmm. So when I, as I say a bunch of times, I like to open the box. And depending on what I feel, how I feel, what I see around me, one day to the other might be completely different. Not completely, but a little bit different, just because of that naturality that you put on your playing. So for me, that side it's special. It's something to not really think about it, but to take in mind very, very deeply.
Yes. And in wrapping up here, give a tip or something that you would recommend that the listeners just try at home, maybe in their playing or in their musical life.
Mm-hmm. Well, there is something as a player that you have to be aware of, and it's your sound. Your sound should be the most pure possible aspect of your playing, because that's what you are going to transmit, your sound. Obviously, there are a bunch of things to get to that, and that have to be a side of the sound, like articulation, in terms of brass playing, articulation, or the way the shape of the notes. There are many, many different schools, and if you go to Europe, you might hear somebody playing. We don't do that here. We are more front of the note, and then we talk about the shape of the note at the end, but not at the beginning. Sound pops up, and it starts there. So, but the quality of your sound, the beauty of your sound. So you have to think about just not that in your practice aspect or your playing aspect. And also you have to think about having the right tools. So you have to feel comfortable with the equipment that you play, your mouthpiece or your bow or your instrument, like kind of feeling that instrument that you hold in your hands is a part of you. It's not something that you are holding and you play it. No, it becomes a part of you. You make it yours. It's like a third arm. Yeah, somehow saying. So I think the best advice for somebody who wants to create a pile of things to do, first thing, technical aspect. That's really important from in my case, trumpet player side. Musical aspect. As much music as you can listen. Every kind of music. And just not hear the music. Listen to the music carefully and try to find details. Then you have to emulate what you just heard. So it's good that you have a reference and you try to be like somebody. That's what I did. And I think at a certain point, we all try to be like somebody. Mm-hmm. That's not a problem. That's perfectly fine. We have to do that. We have to emulate somebody. And then you have to be yourself. That's the last aspect. You have to create your own version, your own path, your own. So it's a mixture of things, but little by little, with all of this, you create a big pile of things that you have to be aware or you have to really pay attention to. And that becomes your own saying for yourself. So I'm not saying that I'm in particular special or different than somebody else, but that each of us has its own way of being, just not as a human, but also as a musician. So, and it's so important that we never forget that in the end, we are musicians, especially we are team players. We work in a big, huge team of other people with 100 different ideas, 100 different perspectives, and you are 100%, 1% of that 100 of that group. So it's, trying to create a nice, healthy environment in your work. So, and in your life in general. So, yeah.
I thank you so much for this. Thanks for taking the time to chat with me today.
It was my pleasure. Absolutely. Thank you, Renée.
There you have it. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Esteban Batallán. One thing that struck me about Esteban, and that's something that I almost always see in other performers of that level, is this incredible combination of passion and thorough, deeply personal process. And I really believe that's key. And if you feel like you have that passion, but you find yourself struggling, and you need guidance to refine your process and find your footing in this performance world, book a consult with me. Head over to mindoverfinger.com/coaching or click the link in the show notes. When you book your free consultation, you and I are going to talk. We're going to go over what's going on for you right now, what kind of blueprint will give you the results you want, and we'll see how I can help you with your process. I work with my clients one-on-one for 6 months to transform their career and their life. The call is completely free, and either way, you're going to walk away from that call with clarity. All right, that's what I have for you this week. Much love going your way, and à bientôt.